What's up mga ka-Investa, and welcome back to another lesson dito sa Investa University. So, grabe, it's good to be back. It's great to be back sa Investa University. It's been a while now since we last uploaded a lesson, but now for this week we're going to be focusing on actually the final class in Investa University, at least in this chapter of InvestaU, which is trading psychology and execution. So for today, yung focus natin is going to be on trading psychology, right? And then in a few days after this, we'll be discussing trading execution. So title for today is Trading Psychology, the key to long-term success in the markets, diba? So, the longer I stay in the market, the longer I continue my trading journey. So when you start out, you mostly try to find a strategy. You first try to learn the basics, and then you try to figure out a strategy that works for you. And then as you move forward, and hindi naman alam mo na lahat, but you already have, a working system, the basics and the foundational TA and everything and all those things, you start to, dwell in the realm of trading psychology, diba? And trading psychology, mindset, mental preparation, and everything. Emotional control, mental capacity. And the book that really, unlocked this for me, and the book that really I learned a lot, and I've read probably 5 or 6 times already, is Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas. Available po ito sa fully booked. And grabe, I got this book recommendation back in 2018 by JC, right? He said, I think I'm paraphrasing, no? I'm not really sure what exactly he said, but this is one of the books that changed, his trading, took it to the next level, diba? So really highly recommend. A lot of what I'm going to be talking about really revolves around the content I learned from this book, diba? So let's start. So let me ask you guys, diba? Because mostly, early on, the things we learn is technical analysis and fundamental analysis. And these are the two things na tinuro din namin sa InvestaU, diba? At a high level. Diba? We talked a lot about technical analysis early on, the basics, the foundation, and then we transition towards yung mga trading strategies na tinuro ni Berio. Hopefully you guys are able to see that. And then we also talked about fundamental analysis, diba? Si 𝗂𝗏, Kim. Yeah, tama. I believe the name was Kim. Sorry, super bad with names. So, yun. Talked about funda. Diba? So, ngayon, when we talk about TA, we talk about mostly charts, diba? So, this is what as traders, this is what we look at, diba? And then if you're a funda person, diba? You're an analyst, or maybe you have a techno-funda approach, you look at these two. Balance statements, income statements, balance sheets rather, diba? So, you look at these two. But, there's also another form of analysis and approach that really, really, really matters in your trading. And this is what we can call mental analysis or trading psychology. So, to be honest, I'm not an expert in this topic, diba? Di ako psychologist, right? In anything, but I'm just going to do my best to share, right, a lot of the things I know and a lot of the things that work for me personally. Diba? And sobrang daming pwede pag-usapan. Right? So we'll probably be doing more than just one video on this. We'll be getting others' perspectives as well. But, I'll try to cover as much as I can in probably an hour or so. Diba? So please bear with me. So now, first of all, let's talk about the importance, right, of trading psychology. So ano nga ba yung importance ng trading psychology? So having high levels of trading psychology allows us to do the following. A lot of things it allows us to do at a high level. So it allows us to manage our emotions, because we all know being emotional in the markets can be deadly. It allows us to maintain our discipline and big picture consistency. Big picture consistency, you'll know why I said that later on. It allows us to execute trades at a high level because we overcome the 4 forms of fear that I'm going to discuss later. Then we start to get a belief in probabilities, which is equivalent to a belief in our system. Without proper trading psychology, we won't be able to execute at a high level. We won't really believe in our system. We won't really know, right, what probabilities are. And it will allow us to avoid the common mistakes done by amateur traders. Diba? Or at least yung mga baguhan, the mga newbie. Diba? Or mga bago sa market. So this is such a nice saying by Jesse Livermore in the book Reminiscences by a Stock Operator. So he said, the pockets change, the suckers change, the stocks change, but Wall Street never changes because human nature never changes. So what does he mean by this? Right? So the market lagi yan nag-evolve, but in essence, ganun pa rin siya, diba? There's a lot of new things out, right? Technology and everything. But at the end of the day, yung mga tao, tayong mga humans, people, tayong gumagalaw sa market, tayong mga traders, investors, diba? So, and human nature, throughout the decades or the centuries na nandiyan na yung market, it never really changed. Diba? So, really, humans, or tayo, we operate out of two big emotions, at least trading-wise. Number one is fear, and number two is hope. And fear has 4 types, which I'll discuss later. So, we all know the proverbial saying, you want to cut your losses short, and you want to let your winners run. Diba? So, we always hear that. Pero yung problema ngayon, baliktad yung ginagawa natin most of the time. And even I am susceptible to this mistake until now. We let our losses run, and we cut our winnings short. Bakit? Bakit natin ginagawa yun, diba? So, for example, we have an example here. We have maxes, diba? We have a support level right here sa may 10. So, if, for example, bumili ka and then bumaba, right? You're down 7-8%. Ano dapat gawin mo? You have to cut, diba? Minimize the loss. But a lot of the tendency is, well, ano sinasabi natin? Antayin ko mag-bounce, or adjust ko yung stop loss ko na onti, or lalabas ako pag break even na. And the tendency is, we experience a much bigger loss, diba? Than what we could have taken. If you don't take a small loss, you'll eventually take the mother of all losses. I forgot which book I read that, but ito, max is down 56%. And then, as of December, di ko na update yung chart, but as of December 2020, ano nangyari? Wala. Down ka pa rin 20% pag intay mo bumalik sa entry price mo. I'm not even sure now if it's sa may 10 na ulit. So, what did you lose by not cutting your losses short? Not only did you lose capital, but you also lost opportunity. Okay? Yung naipit mong capital dyan sa maxes o sa stock, hindi ka nag-cut. Dahil naipit, you could have, if you cut your losses short sana, you could have used that capital, allocated it to a better leader, a better winner. But now, di mo magawa kasi ipit ka na. And next is number 3, loss of confidence. Diba? Whenever you take a big loss, your confidence always takes a hit. And if you're not able to, if you're a trader, you know, having the level of confidence in your trading is very important, because if you lose that, paano ka na mag-execute? The next leader that comes out, that will be the next triple bagger, hindi mo na mabibili yun. Well, mabibili mo naman, but like, there's a chance, hindi mo na mabibili yun. Kasi bakit? Wala na eh. Wala na yung confidence mo. You don't have the confidence to pull the trigger, to go with the right size and everything. You want to be out of the market. And that's because you didn't protect your capital and your confidence. As important as it is to protect your capital, when you're cutting your losses, not only protecting your capital in terms monetarily, but also your mental capacity or your mental capital as well. So that's really important. So ang yung point. Yeah, so we tend to let our losses run. At the same time, we tend to cut our winners short. So for example here, say Ace N, we bought it for example at 240, 250. And our exit plan was a break below EMA 50. But on the way up, on the way up, right, we see a few bearish signs, right? But we have a rising wedge here, we have a fake breakdown here, but it never went below EMA 50. But what's the tendency when we see warning signs like this? That hindi pa naman totally dead yung trend, hindi pa naman exit plan based sa plano mo, but you see these types of moments na medyo makakabahan ka. What's the tendency? Binibenta na natin. Kasi gain is gain. Diba? And I think, you know, gain is gain. I hear it a lot. But I think it's a limiting belief, especially if you're trying to go for a bigger move in the bull market. Diba? It's a limiting belief. Not really an excuse, but sort of na rin na, pwede na to. I mean, tama. You won't get broke taking profits, taking 10% profits, but you won't grow wealth. Diba? Taking 10% profits lang, diba? Unless siguro super high-level day trader ka. Big money is made in the sitting, diba? But anyway, so what's the tendency, diba? We tend to cut our winner short. And we would have missed out on this almost 200% move if that happened, diba? So The thing is, balik din ginagawa natin. We hope that our losses would go back to break even, which leads to us to hold on to our losers. While we fear losing our gains, that we settle for small profits. And baliktad yun, diba? What you want to have is small losses and big gains. But the tendency is, we want to have what's happening, especially early on in your journeys. My journey as well is we tend to let our losses run and we cut our winners short. But actually, what we should be doing is instead of hoping, we must fear, and instead of fearing, we must hope. Diba? He must fear that his loss might develop into a bigger loss. Yeah, he must fear na yung loss baka lumaki, and he or she must hope na baka magkamalaking profit pa. Diba? So that's just something, right, na I feel like was really important to discuss as well, yung hope and fear, and yung perspective with Jessie Livermore, right? So now moving on, the next thing we really have to do is we need to take responsibility for our trades. Here's a personal I got this off yung trading journal ko using the Investa Prime. So Investa journal to. One of the features comes with Investa Prime. I use it especially when I was taking the PSE. Here's a part of my journal when I was still in college. Diba? When I was still I think late college na ako neto. So I was going through a pretty bad losing streak, right? I had a 20k loss here, 5k, 3k, 4k, 15k, 14k. And then here, more and more losses. Diba? So, masakit yan. Diba? Especially kapag estudyante pala ako nito, wala pa ako sweldo, allowance pa lang, diba? And I'm trading, diba? And I'm going through these periods. Not all of these are controlled losses. A good amount of these are more than 1 bar. What's the tendency, diba? When we go through these things? A lot of us, including myself, we tend to blame the market. Kasalanan ng market, pangit ang market, kasi bear market, blah, 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 blah. But what starts happening when we start blaming something that's not ourselves, when we don't take accountability? There's no accountability. If you keep blaming someone else, wala na, tapos na, kasalanan niya eh. Kasalanan ng market. Wala ka nang i-improve sa sarili mo, di mo kasalanan eh. Diba? And this will also lead us to revenge trade. And that's what I did. That's why I got those big, almost 20k losses, diba? Because I wanted to get the money back and I dug a bigger hole for myself, diba? And yeah, number 3, which I already mentioned, there's not going to be a process of continuous improvement because we didn't take responsibility. The market itself is neutral. We interpret what the market is showing us. Yes, of course, may times na hindi magkasalaan ng market, but the reason why our trades don't go in our favor is because the market environment is not in our favor. And knowing that, anong dapat gawin natin? We should reduce our size, stay in cash. Hindi siya kasalaan ng market, di ba? It's our fault. The market itself is neutral. We interpret what the market is showing us. If you look at this chart, wala kang alam na TA, for example, just look at it lang. Ano meron? Red and green lines going up and down. At the end of the day, we interpret what the market is showing us. It's neutral. So our thoughts actually reflect where we are at our journey, and it's our responsibility to achieve continuous improvement. It's not anyone else's responsibility. It's not the market's responsibility. These are responsibility ng jowa mo. These are responsibility ng nanay mo, ng kapitbahay mo. It's your responsibility as a trader. Okay. So once we've taken that responsibility, and making that decision may take some time, we may subconsciously still blame others. But once we've really taken responsibility, what's next? The next thing now is to learn how to execute at the highest level possible. And how do we do this? The only way to do this is to overcome the 4 types of fear. So, fear. Sorry. So yeah. And the only way to do that is to accept the risk. So, 4 types of fear, talk about it later. Let's dwell into this part first. The only way to deal with those types of fears is by accepting the risk. So risk is part. There's risk in everything, diba? Regardless of what you do. There's risk in business. There's risk in real estate. There's risk in your daily life. Pag tatawid sa kalsada, may risk na yun. Diba? Picking probably the right partner in life, there's risk. Everything involves risk. Driving, biking, everything, sports. But especially investments. But trading there's risk involved, right? And we have to accept na these type of scenarios can happen. Like, for example, CHP, right? From 13, nag-piso, basically down 90%. Maxes, for example, dati 60 plus, tas, di ba, bumagsak ng todo. Here's a few example of a few downtrending stocks. And maybe, for example, if we're trying to trade the breakout, for example, ito VLL bottoming out breakout, reversal breakout, di ba? We have to accept the fact na potentially di siya pwede tumuloy, and potentially this can happen, which it did, di ba? We have to accept the fact na there's risk involved, and there's also losses involved, and we need to mentally prepare for the downside. Diba? So, for example, a lot of people when they trying to trade something, say something goes sa may entry point nila, all they see at this point, all they see is yung TP nila. Kasi na, okay, baka mag-6 to. Yan na yung focus ko. Mentally prepared ka mag-take profit. But what a lot of people aren't mentally prepared for is the downside. Kaya pag bumagsak yan, pag nag-fake out na, ano nangyayari? Nababad trip, nagugulat, kinakabahan. Diba? Because you're not mentally prepared for this scenario, which is possible, which is 100% possible to happen. Diba? It did. What Paul Tudor Jones does is every day he assumes that every position he has is wrong. Bakit? Because he believes that great traders play great defense. Great traders protect the downside because they know the upside will take care of itself. Aakit yan kung aakit. Diba? Di mo na control yun kung aakit yung presyo. But what you can control is minimizing the losses. Alright, so by accepting the risk, anything that the market does should not be threatening. Dapat di ka nakabahan. Ano may feeling na yun pag bumabagsak yung stock mo? Excuse me. Kinakabahan ka? Dapat di ka nakakabahan. Bakit? Kasi may risk management ka. Because you mentally prepared. You visualized it. You saw it na okay, pwede nga umakyat, pero pwede rin bumaba. And if pag bumaba siya, I know this is what it's gonna look like. And once it hits this specific point, I know I'm gonna cut. Or kung may auto cut to, much better. If you're not disciplined to have a mental stop. Diba? So yun. Right? Pero, kapag kinakabahan, kapag lumalapit na yung presyo sa cut loss mo, that means you really didn't accept the risk. For example, to use ASIN again, say for example, you bought at support, right? Here's a 3, and then your cut was 2.89. But nung day na to, bumaba, kinabahan ka, sabi mo, ayoko na antayin yung stop loss ko kasi masakit, gusto ko na i-cut, baka bumagsak pa, lagpas dyan. So, what did you do? You cut it much earlier, it didn't really hit your stop, and you missed out on the big move that you already know, di ba? Ang taas ang inakyat ni ASIN. So, by accepting the risk and mentally preparing, when you accept the risk, you accept the fact na it's probably there's a chance it's probably going 50% of the time, you're probably gonna cut your losses. And it shouldn't bother you if you really accept the risk. Diba? So, yun. So, there are 4 types of fear, right? Number 1 is fear of missing out. Number 2 is fear of being wrong, fear of losing money, fear of leaving money on the table. And I'll go through every single one of those, how you can address them. So the 2 ways to overcome these types of fears is to what I already discussed. You have to accept the risk. Diba? You have to accept the risk, and you have to tweak your belief system. You have to acquire new beliefs, or maybe you even have to disown old beliefs and acquire new ones. The process of acquiring beliefs, that's out of my scope. I read books about it, but not really to the point that I can teach that, no. But yeah. But maybe I can give you guys a few beliefs that you can try to ingrain para lang ma-overcome yung mga fears na to. Teka, quick water break. So alam niyo na, tendency ko pag matagal nagsasalita and very game na game, no? Napapause ako. So game, first, fear of missing out. So yung fear of missing out or yung FOMO, to give you guys an example, I'm sure a lot of us know this already, but just to give an example, Ditto last year, kunyari, it broke out of this big ka-InvestaU handle, right? At 384. Say for example, yan, hindi ka nakabili. Hindi ka nakabili. Busy ka, sa banyo ka. Tapos nagka-small conso. Nag-breakout pero hindi ka pa rin nakabili. Up na 17%. At this point, bibili ka pa ba dapat? Siyempre hindi. Bakit? Extended na eh. Unless mag-intraday ka na lang. Pero kung daily chart-based trader ka, wala na. Wait for a conso pattern ka na. Pero nakita mo, grabe inakyat. Diba? 55% in a couple of days. Diba? And, nakala mo dito, kala mo dito sa point na to, wala na. Nag-fade na. Okay na. Hindi na masakit. Pero pucha, umakyat pa rin. Diba? And at this point, and at this point, sabi mo, kailangan ko na pumasok, diba? Parang, baka mag-to the moon na to. And yan na, nag-intraday ka na and everything, bumili ka na. And what's the tendency, diba? When you operate out of FOMO, you operate out of thinking it's going to the moon, after you buy, it tends to crash, diba? And it's all coincidental, but really, this is what you call fear of missing out. Right? Nafo-FOMO ka. And I'm sure a lot of us, diba, go through experience this already. I have myself. I'll share it in the next slide. And after you bought, it went down 35%. So ito yung fear of missing out, which can lead to a lot of losses. This is one of the deadliest mistakes any trader can make. So here's a personal example. Right? Here's ECP. I remember nag-seeding siya, and then nag-gap up siya the next day. Right? So nag-seeding siya dito, nag-gap up siya the next day, and then pinapanood ko lang, pero di ako bumili, di ko na pull yung trigger. Bakit? Kasi sabi ko, baka masyadong mataas sa ganyan. But when it kept going up, like ko nakikita sa Facebook na, ayan na, mag-seeding yan ngayon, tapos magti-triple seeding. So where did I buy ECP? Eventually, wala na, FOMO ko, bumili ako. Because all I was thinking about was the upside. Right? So when I bought it sa pinakatuktok. I cannot exaggerate enough. I think the high was 15.96 or 16. I bought it sa pinakatuktok. I cannot exaggerate that. And then bumagsak. Once bumagsak siya, the problem was I did not accept the risk. And wala akong cut. And when it kept going down, na-freeze na ako. Di ako mentally prepared eh. Di nga ako mentally prepared para bilhin. Mentally prepared lang ako para mag-TP. Mentally prepared kaya ako mag-cut loss. Hindi. Ano pa ginawa ko? When it went down, I bought more. Chong, nag-average down pa ako dito. So the losses, I think this is where the 30K loss or 25K loss came from dun sa journal ko when I was in college. And eventually, I had to throw in the towel. I cut my loss at 12. And luckily, I did because wala na to. I don't think it's even close to that price. But this is the cost of getting FOMO. I got a 30% loss, which is a really big one. Kasi ang laki ng size ko, so nag-average down pa ako. So, yun lang. It's my personal FOMO experience. After nito, luckily, I never experienced something similar to this. Right? But that was a very excruciating experience for me. So next is the fear of being wrong. One moment. Teka lang, may check lang ako. Okay. Next is the fear of being wrong. So being wrong isn't a choice, but staying wrong is. Sabi to ni Mark Minervini. Another quote by another great trader, George Soros. It's not about whether you're right or wrong that's important, but how much money you make when you're right and how much you lose when you're wrong. A lot of people want, when they trade, gusto nila tama sila. The point na may kipag-argue pa sila, de pare, mare, akit yan, de mali ka, blah blah blah. They would go back and forth to arguments on the story, on everything. But at the end of the day, the market doesn't really care if you're right. And we're not in the business of trading to be right. We're in the business of trading to make money, diba? To be financially free. Right? And now the problem is the fear of being wrong. Ito naman, that's a whole nother point. But sorry, I kind of took it out of context. But the fear of being wrong is what leads you to missing out on trades. For example, last year, one of the leaders last year, IPO high breakout, 450. Hindi ba kapag breakout or trend follower, no-brainer setup na to? Pero what's the tendency ngayon ng mga tao na takot magkamali? Ayoko bilhin, baka bumagsak. Diba? And usually, what does that lead out to? you miss out on great opportunities like MM. If that was your mindset and you were afraid to be wrong, you're afraid for your friends tell you na, cut loss ka na naman, you would have missed out on this 50% gain in a very short period of time. And that's what happens when you're afraid to be wrong. Diba? Next is the fear of losing money. Now, I won't show a chart example for this one. But a lot of people, diba, they're afraid of losses. Well, rightfully so. Kasi, ano ba yun? It's our hard-earned money eh. But when you come into trading, and this is what happens when you don't accept the risk, you don't accept the downside, you tend to be afraid of losses, which leads you to not cutting your losses, which leads you to always waiting to get out at break-even. Pero paano pag di mag-break-even, di ba? The best way really to treat it is to treat losses as the cost of doing business or yung tuition fee mo. I personally just treat it as the cost of doing business because I treat trading as a business. And in business, may mga expenses ka. So for me, yung pagka-cut loss, expenses lang yun. And if I do the right things, if I have the right strategy, if I trade the proper way, my profits will definitely outweigh the losses. And really, the best way, kasi may mga tao nagka-cut naman pero may nagkaka-mental lapses, di ba? So if hindi ka mag-auto-cut, or yeah, kahit auto-cut, they feel bad about it. What you can do is, and what I did was, you can rewire your mind to treat small, controlled losses as wins. Yun yung ginawa ko. Diba? I think I got this from Think and Trade Like a Champion, a book of Mark Minervini. What I did was, whenever I would cut until today, kapag alam ko tumama sa cut loss ko or ako mismo nag-cut, I would kind of, in my mind, I would celebrate na. I would pat myself on the back. Good job, boy. Okay, boy, good job. So, I would treat, losses, small losses as wins. Basta sumunod sa plano ko. That's what I would do. And you can also do other things like you could eat ice cream, you can eat your favorite food pag nag-cut loss ka just to rewire your mind. Okay, small losses are actually good as long as hindi siya yung marami kang overtrade, maraming small losses. If it's like the proper small loss based on your plan, doing the right thing, you should find a way to treat it as a win. Another thing is, and one more thing is, not all profitable trades are good trades, and not all losing trades are bad trades. But what do I mean by this? So for example, let's say you're looking at ACE and trying to get it off this continuation pattern. If you had two options where to buy it. You could have bought it on the breakout or the retest. Those are two valid buy points. But if you bought it here sa 550 and then binenta mo sa tuktok, ang 25% gain ka, would you say that this was a good trade? It was a profitable trade, but would you say that it was a good trade? If you repeated this over and over and over again in a consistently long period of time, would you make money repeating what you did here? Probably not. Bakit? Kasi bibili ka ng extended na stock eh. Genius ka na lang, nabenta mo sa tuktok. May benta mo ba sa tuktok ulit next time? And the thing here is, and ito naman, is this a good trade or a bad trade? Right? We have a couple-handed breakout kay Chewy. Tapos nag-fake out, bumaba sa red line, cut loss mo yan, napa-stop out ka. You lost money. But was it a good trade? You had a small 1 VAR loss. Was it a good trade? Yeah. Bakit? It was a losing trade. You lost money, but it was a good trade because you followed your plan. Right? So the one thing you don't want to do is to do things like this. You don't want to benefit from doing the wrong things. Bakit? Because your mind will be wired to think na okay, mukhang okay itong ginawa ko, gawin ko nga ulit. And that's why it's not really only about making money in trading. It's also about keeping it. And you won't be able to keep the money you make, especially pag chamba lang yun, if you don't do the right habits, if you don't do the right things. Okay. Next, water break. Next is fear of leaving money on the table. This is the fear, like I mentioned a while ago, we usually cut our gains short. We take smaller profits. This is a personal example. Last year, I traded this one, 𝗧𝗥𝗏𝗏𝗖𝗛, bought it on the breakout. And then when I was up, and mga 50%, nagkadalawang red candle na, but I actually sold into strength na may 80 plus. Sabi ko, okay na to. Diba? 50% gain, okay na to. But, sobrang layo pa niyan sa trail stop ko. But I was afraid na because of those 2 red candles afterwards na parang, okay, I think I have to sell the entire position already. And because I was afraid to leave money on the table pag bumagsak pa to below 68. And eventually, that just led me to missing out on... This went even higher than 240%. I think this went up all the way, 300%? Hindi na ako naka-buy back. I missed out on such a big opportunity because I was afraid to leave money on the table. And really, the only way to... And yeah, actually, I'll be talking about that later. Yeah, this is what you call leaving money on the table. So again, the 2 ways to overcome these 4 types of fears. Number 1, accept risk. Number 2, change your belief system. And now we'll be focusing on changing your belief system. So what I did is I wrote down beliefs, and these are exactly what's written in my trading notebook. I wrote down beliefs that were against these 4 fears that I just talked about. And I would read it. Well, okay. To be honest, I used to read it every day, but not anymore. Something I probably need to get back into doing. But I used to read it. Diba? So my belief against, para lang maging green sa utak ko. So my belief against FOMO was, I don't fear missing out since I have patience and understanding that there will always be opportunities in the market. If you miss out, ba't ka mag-FOMO if you have the belief na at any point in time, especially if you trade a lot of markets, there will always be opportunities. Even if PSE lang yan, even if it's some market lang yan, crypto, US, there will always be opportunities. So if you have this type of belief, paano ka mag-FOMO? Belief against being wrong. I don't fear being wrong because doing so only means I'm egotistical. Lalim. The only thing to do to cease being wrong is to do what is right, which is in most cases cutting my losses. So the example I gave a while ago was in terms of buying, diba? So another belief you can have there is it's okay to be wrong, diba? Because if mali ka, you do the right thing and you cut your losses. Diba? But it's also in the context of, for example, bumabagsak yung stock, nasa cut mo na, ayaw mo i-cut kasi ego-wise, you don't like being wrong, so the loss gets bigger. But yeah, you guys get the point naman. So yun. Next, belief against fear of losing money. I don't fear losing money because I understand that it's unavoidable. Trying to avoid the unavoidable will F me up, right? So what's important is following my risk management parameters. Sorry, I just literally wrote that what was in my notebook. This is my belief, diba? You can't avoid the unavoidable. And losses are unavoidable. It's the cost of doing business and trading. And lastly, fear of leaving money on the table. Ito sabi ko, I don't fear leaving money on the table since I understand that it's nearly impossible to pick the tops consistently. What's important is making more than I lose on a consistent basis. So yung goal ko is not to pick the top, diba? Not to sell it sa pinaka-top, but just to follow my plan and to ride the trend out. Now, I'll always sell too early into strength, which is what I did sa SE, but di ko alam bull market, so I missed out. Or too late into weakness when you're trying to trend follow. So these are the beliefs na I ingrained in myself para maiwasan ko yung 4 types of fears. Now, the most important part of this lesson is to talk about the 5 fundamental truths in trading. And all of these, again, galing sa Trading in the Zone. So, and again, truly believing in these truths will allow you, sabi ni Mark Douglas, to think in a probabilistic mindset. So, here are the 5 fundamental truths. So, wait lang. Okay, hindi ko na babasahin. We'll go through everything naman. But yeah, these are the 5 fundamental truths. And let's talk about the first one. Right? Anything can happen. So, in the book, there was a story about a grain trade. A grain is a commodity. There is this commodities trader who traded, I think, mostly out of fundamentals. And nung time na to, 1960s, I think 1970s, dun medyo sumisikat yung technical analysis. Right? And what he did was he hired a technical analyst, diba? Just to teach him, diba? To show him how TA works. Kasi para sa kanya, magic lang yun. So what he did was, so yan, dumating yung analyst, tinuruan siya. And this is the brightest analyst in the industry, one of the brightest. Tinuruan siya ng support and resistance. So, tumama na support of the day, intraday niya trade. Nung tumama na sa intraday support, ano sabi ni technical analyst? This is the exact low. Di ito babagsak dito. Support na eh. But we already know in reality, pwede siya bumagsak. But yeah, valid naman, support yun. But the problem is, the analyst thought, imposible na bumagsak doon. That's the low of the day. Alam mo, sabi ni commodities, ni grain trader, sabi niya, that's a bunch of BS. Kinuha niya yung telepono niya, tumawag sa broker niya, sell 2 million bushels or whatever, kung ano man yung tawag sa units sa grain, sell 2 million worth of grain. And what happened? Siyempre, bumagsak below support. Tapos, siyempre, technical analyst, kung siya pahiya, na-freeze. Sabi ni grains trader, if I can do that, anyone else can do that. Anything can happen in the market. Oh, he didn't say anything can happen. I'm saying that though. Anything can happen in the market. Another example, ito recent lang. Si Ronaldo, diba? May Coke sa podium. He took it out. Held up a bottle of water. Sabi niya, you guys should drink water instead. I forgot exactly what happened to Coke, right? But I forgot if the market share got hit, revenues got hit or something. But I think the stock price got hit. Sorry, I wasn't able to double check. But yeah, anything can happen to a company too. Diba? Anything can happen. If tinamaan yung stock price, diba? Can your technical analysis predict this? Of course, I'm not saying TA, ako 80%, 90% TA trader ako, but these are just the truths in the market na, syempre, we have to prepare for it. Kaya tayo may risk management kapag may mga scenarios na ganito. Another example, Bitcoin, right? Yung godfather ng Bitcoin, Elon Musk, kala natin, goods lang to the moon, 100K. And then, what happened after this? The crypto market crashed. And one of their catalysts was also because of Elon Musk walking back on his commitment, on Tesla's commitment to accepting Bitcoin as a form of payment. So the guy who people would say is the reason for the rise, also, diba, surprisingly, attributed to the crash. Diba? So, anything can happen. Right? And all it takes is one trader. All it takes is one person in the world to mess up the bias of your trade. So if your bias is going up and all it takes is one person to make it break down. If your bias is going down, all it takes is one person for the trend to go up. Diba? So ano ba yung nagpapagalaw sa chart? Mga traders, diba? Tayo naman yung nagbabuy and sell eh. Right? So there's so many factors we don't know, like how many traders are waiting to enter the market. How many are willing to buy and sell at what price? At what volume? What are the reasons for buying and selling? These things we don't know. So knowing that there are so many factors we don't know, then there's no way to know for sure what's going to happen. And this is why we need to operate out of a belief in uncertainty or to adopt a probabilistic mindset. To know that anything can happen, I need to mentally prepare for both the upside and the downside. I need to be able to execute regardless of where the direction of the trade goes. Dito na pumapasok yung thinking in probabilities. Dito na pumapasok yung belief in uncertainty. Because in the market, there's a lot of uncertainty. After you buy, ano magagawa mo? Hindi mo na kontrolado yung presyo. All you can do is sell or buy more. Right? And everything else, you leave it not to chance, but to probabilities. Diba? So hopefully you guys got that point. For example, ito, si C. Kunyari, ayun, the point here was, diba? Ba't nga ba in-include yung chart na to? Anyways, before, nakakalimutan ko yung point dun, pero di ata masyado important. But yeah, baka mawala yung momentum dun sa anything can happen probabilistic mindset. Those were the most important points in that part. Next is, you don't need to know what's going to happen next to make money. A lot of people, they try to find out, ano ba chismis dyan? Ano ba pwede mangyari? Akit kaya to baba? But at the end of the day, you don't really need to know what's going to happen next to make money kasi nga, it's a game of probabilities. It's like flipping a coin. When you flip a coin, you know you have a 50-50 chance of getting heads or tails. If you would say heads is a win and tails is a loss, you have a 50-50 chance of getting either of those. And if you have a trading system that gives you a 50-50 chance na win rate, same thing. And when we flip a coin, kinakabahan ba tayo pag pabagsak na? Sana heads, sana heads, sana heads. We just flip it, right? So what we need to understand is, in the micro, in the short term, every trade or outcome is statistically independent of one another. While in the macro, in the bigger picture, over a series of trades with a big enough sample size, if you have an edge, or a strategy, you should come out with more profits than losses. But there's a random distribution between these profits and losses, which I'll show later. It's like flipping a coin. Diba? In the micro, hindi mo naman malalaman, right? Ano mag-heads, ano mag-tails. But if you do it 100 times, if you do it a lot of times, more or less, you will come out to a result close to 50-50. Pwede 48, 52, ganyan. But more or less, in the micro, pagka-flip mo, di mo alam, heads or tails, and they're not related, they're just gonna go down, heads and tails, 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 heads, di mo alam. But you know, if you do it long enough, it's going to be most likely 50-50 out of a big sample size. But now, one thing we need to know is there is a random distribution between profits and losses for any set of variables that define an edge. So basically, you know, in the bigger picture, you will come out with more profits and losses if you have the right strategy and you're trading the right way. But you don't know the sequence, right, of wins and losses in each particular trade. Di mo alam, will this be a winner? Will this be a loser? You wouldn't know. But, parang dito, diba? But you would know na dahil may edge ka, dahil may strategiya ka, dahil may methodology ka that's proven to be profitable, if you do it the right way, if you do it over a series of trades with a good enough sample size, you'll come out on top. Bakit? Because your wins will outweigh your losses. Because you have bigger wins, you have smaller losses. Next is an edge is nothing more than an indication of a higher probability of one thing happening over another. I don't really have a lot to expound on that point. Basically, ang sinasabi dito, your strategy, there's nothing really special about it, but all it does is, it puts the probabilities in your favor. And it doesn't mean a sure win, wala naman sure win na strategy, but if the probabilities are in your favor, you're most likely to be profitable, right? Next, every moment in the market is unique. Okay. So, you have to be... Alright. You have to believe that everything in that's currently happening in the now moment in the market is not like anything that has happened or that is currently happening. So, the belief in this now moment, in the belief in that the market is unique, will counteract your mind's association mechanism. Let me give you guys a story about the association mechanism. Yeah, the boy and the dog. So let's say, for example, my boy, bata pa lang siya, and then he saw a dog, right? And the thing about a child's mind is it's naturally curious. And let's say first time niya makita ng dog. So what's the tendency? Lalapit sa dog, diba? You want to experience something new. And you don't know that there can be good dogs or bad dogs. You're just neutral. You go close to the dog, kinagat ka. Kinagat yung boy. So what's the tendency now? Right? Attack. You experience pain, traumatized ka na. Natakot ka na sa mga aso. Diba? All you know in your mind, all you know, if you were the boy, all he knew was that he developed a belief that all dogs are freaking scary, are probably gonna bite me, and I don't want to go near any of those. But he didn't know na maraming aso naman na hindi mangangagat, playful, very nice, very loving. But because of this experience, because of his association mechanism in his brain, in his mind, wala na, he associated this experience to every other dog he saw. And now, wala na. Diba? He has to go through a lot of things to get over that trauma. Diba? And really, it's kind of similar to trading, right? What's the tendency when di ba kanina sabi ko, each particular trade is statistically independent of each other in the micro, di ba? It doesn't matter if you got a loss in this one trade, the next trade is totally independent. But what's the tendency if, for example, we're a breakout trader, for example, then bumili ka 3 breakout, nag-fake, pero may pang-4. What's the tendency? Alam mo na yan eh. The tendency is, wala, nakakabahan ka na. Why? Because your mind is associating that trade that's unique, that's special, that quote-unquote never happened yet, yan, special, it's unique, statistically independent. You're associating that to the past 3 previous trades. What do you say? Di ko nata-trade yan. Tapos yun yung nag-multi-bagger. That is the association mechanism at play. And now, what's the opposite naman? Let's say, 3 trade mo, tumuloy. Diba? Pero, anong nangyari? 3 trade mo tumuloy, 3 breakout, may pang-4, kala mo genius ka, nag-all-in ka. Kasi, akit na yan. Like the past 3, what happened? Bumagsak. GG ka na. But really, yeah, it is such a profound, right, lesson na yung association mechanism, and the lower you get your potential to associate means the more open your mind is to receive what the market is offering from its perspective, right? So just to show you guys the example again, for example, breakout trader ka, bumili ka PXP, nag-fail. Bumili ka MRC, nag-fail. Bumili ka KPPI, nag-fail. Tapos nakita mo, like example si Asian, no? Pero nakita mo to. What's the tendency now? After going through all of these, I mean, even me, I'd be honest, even me, I would be hesitant. Kasi sa mind ko, bibili ako, cut loss din naman ako. But, you know, at the end of the day, we have to really believe that everything that's happening in the market is unique. And you have to, it's really mental effort at first to disassociate. So, I haven't mastered it yet, diba, na automatically ma-disassociate ko na. But I'm doing mental effort. I'm consciously doing it, right? Okay, hindi to related. Yung mga cut loss ko, hindi siya related sa opportunity ngayon. But if you didn't have that belief, you would have missed out on this big move. So we have to believe that every moment in the market is unique. Yun. Okay, water break ulit. Now, the next thing I would like to talk about is how I recovered last year from a negative 30% drawdown. So actually, what happened last year was, when I started trading the global markets, I'm not sure if makikita siya, kasi I think my camera's on the upper right side. Yeah, yung kay oil, I think I made my leverage yan, but mga 150% ata yung gain ko. Na big short ko si oil noon. Pero yun, when I started out in the global markets, medyo chumamba ako, no? Ito yan. This is the first few trades that I made. And up ako kaagad 50% on my portfolio there. And majority of my portfolio, actually, I transitioned to yung global markets na at this time, right? So, I was up 15% in a week. Or in 2 weeks. I was up 15% na in the portfolio. And then, yun nga, I thought I had it figured out, diba? I thought I was a genius, Superman syndrome. And then what happened? Eventually, nakain din yung gains ko, and even worse, because first time ko lang mag-short kasi nga global market, and what happened? Kala ko the big short na ako. So, it looks stupid thinking about it now, but knowing now that, you know, nagka-bull market nga, I was trying to short the S&P 500 in April. And if you can imagine, that was the beginning of the bull market. So, grabe yung series of losses na dinanan ko. Here was one page of a lot of losses, another page of a ton of losses, another page of a ton of losses, sabi ko, ayoko na mag-S&P 500, balik na ako sa oil. Sabi ko, mag-day trade na lang ako ng oil, and a lot of lists of a lot of losses. So, what happened was, from up 15%, I was down 15%. So, yung 15% na gain, naging zero, naging loss pa. So, negative 30% drawdown yun. And masakit. So, here's another page of losses sa oil. So, I go through my phases too. Another page of losses sa oil. So, I'm telling you, grabe yung naranasan ko dito. Thinking about it now, grabe. Right? Kala ko may isa pang page. So what did I do? I dedicated myself to restudying all of the best traders I know. So I reread a bunch of the books I already read a lot of times then, or a good amount of times. So I read all the books of Mark Minervini, I read the books of William O'Neill, I reread Jesse Livermore's books, I reread Trading in the Zone. This is Mark Douglas, by the way. I reread a lot of other books, Market Wizards by 𝗧𝗥𝗔𝗗𝗚. And binalikan ko yung 5 fundamental truths. Binalikan ko ito lahat. Right? At the end of the day, para bawiin yung mga loss na yun, I knew it was gonna be a process, and I dedicated myself to learning again, to emptying my cup, diba? Coming in a student standpoint, even though I read those books a lot na, I know the strategies they're teaching. My mindset was, okay, I might learn something new if I read it again. So it's just all about accepting na I went through those things. I went through that seas, a bad drawdown. I have to keep learning. So binalik ako yung 5 fundamental truths, diba? And slowly but surely, I was able to nabawi ko. Right? Nabawi ko yung mga losses. Wait, I don't think nakikita niyo yung port snap. So let me minimize my camera sa Zoom. Baka makita niyo. For example, here, I was able to trade TTD, 30% gain. And then BJ, 23% gain. I was able to trade Tesla, a couple of 30%, 20-30% gains. I think this was my biggest trade or second biggest trade, Zoom, right? 60-70%. I was able to trade AMD 30%, able to trade Tesla 43%. So, I'm not showing this to brag, no. I'm just showing this na I was able to get the process right eventually, and luckily after a couple of months nabawi ko and ended the year profitable. Right? Nabawi ko yung negative 50% loss that went up 20% very quickly kasi nga bull market. So yeah, it was a very roller coaster experience. But of course, just to show you guys, syempre, hindi tayo genius, tayo perfecto, puro gains pinakita ko. Ito rin, kahit yung period na medyo okay na ako, nagka-series of losses pa rin. So, but the gains outweigh the losses. Okay, I hope bumalik yung camera ko. If not, we can still continue naman. So now, I want to share this trade I did sa pins. It is either my best trade or my second best trade last year. Di ko maalala. So si pins, I saw it at this point, right? I saw it ganito itsura niya. Siyempre, it's a mukhang IPO-based IPO breakout. So I wanted to buy at the break of 36.50. So at this point, I'll minimize my camera ulit. Baka di kasi makita. Hopefully, na-minimize yung camera ko. But at this point, right, nag-breakout siya pero nag-fail, diba? And bumagsak. So napakat ako dyan, 7%. Okay. Sabi ko, trading in the zone tayo, diba? Trading in the zone, everything in the market's unique. Dito related sa past trade. So, nung tumira ulit ako. Nung umakyat ulit, tumira ulit ako. Cut na naman. So, okay lang. Not related. It's part of the process. Pero umakyat na naman. Tapos tumira na naman ako, mga chong. Sabi ko, trading in the zone, everything in the market's unique. Anything can happen. Statistically independent. Pero bumagsak pa rin. Cut na naman. Tapos, ang nangyari, ayan na. Sabi ko, imposible na hindi na ito yun. So, bumili ulit ako. I disassociated all the past trades. I bought again and yet again, bumagsak na naman. So, after, was this another trade? Yeah, and this was this another one? Teka. Yeah, I think this was another one too. But anyway, I traded this stock 5 times trying to trade the breakout, and 5 times nakat ako. But I just continued with the mindset na, well, maybe my mistake here din was pinipilit ko, knowing na it was a leader, it was in a high base, but knowing na hirap siya i-trade momentum, i-momentum trade, dapat pinosicion trade ko na lang, dapat that antay na lang support, diba? That was my mistake, di ako nag-adapt. But where I did right was, I held the mindset na everything in the market was unique and all the trades were statistically independent of each other. But yeah, I went through a series of losses kay pins, and it was crazy. Parang laki, di ba? And hindi lang to small positions yung pinapasok ko, ha? Talagang conviction. yeah, that was a very stressful period until I finally caught the breakout. And I was able to sell it near the high nung lumabas na yung earnings. And I exited the trade. Nag-scale up na ako neto. But yeah, more or less, mga 70%. Diba? So the experience here was to show you guys yung, I'll stay in this chart. Yung, just the belief in probabilities, the belief in what I learned from trading in the zone. So actually, this is my last slide. So masakit ng lalamunan ko. But hopefully marami kayo natutunan. Everything I shared here is what I learned from trading in the zone and other places as well. So I highly suggest you read that. And there's really so many other things we can learn about this topic. So keep learning. And this trading psychology isn't just something you learn. Parang, it's stock knowledge, but it's something you practice every day. Something you practice every day. And for me, once you get the strategy, this is going to be the next level, mastering your trading psychology. So yeah, hopefully marami kayo natutunan, mga ka-InvestaU. If you have any questions, please comment down below. Message my page, yung Toma Trader, and let me know, if you like this lesson. Right? So yun. Basta hopefully marami kayo natutunan. The next lesson will be on Sunday. Or basta within a couple of days too, we'll be talking about trading execution. So yun. Hopefully I was able to provide value to everyone. I enjoyed nyo and I was able to explain everything clearly. So yeah, that's it for this one. Mga ka-InvestaU, see you guys in the next lesson.